I'm not an anarchist, although I know some of my libertarian friends who are. But I believe there are legitimate functions of government. However, the legitimate functions of government are those that secure and protect self-ownership rights. Therefore, it's a legitimate function of government to protect these rights against international and domestic usurpation. Hence, that says it's a legitimate function of government to provide for the national defense. It's a legitimate function of government at some level to provide for police services. It's a legitimate function of government to enforce contracts, adjudicate some disputes, enforce constitutional order, and provide certain public goods. And when I say public goods, I mean public goods in the way that an economist would talk about public goods. It is not a legitimate function of government to confiscate the property of one American and give it to another American to whom it does not belong. And herein lies our most important moral failure in our country, and hence the injustice in our society. According to just my eyeballing it, looking through the federal budget book, fully 3/5 of federal government expenditures constitute actions that involve the confiscation of the earnings of one American and giving them to another to whom they do not belong. And we can think a lot of programs that fit this category. Some are aid to dependent farmers programs, aid to dependent business, mostly savings and loans lately, retirement handouts, and welfare handouts. Now, many Americans bask in moral rectitude, applauding government actions that they would roundly condemn as despicable if done privately. That is, if I confiscated the money from one of you, I walked up to you and I said, give me your $200, and then having gotten the $200, I would go help a homeless lady downtown sleeping on the grate. I would buy her some housing and some food. Well, most of you, or most Americans, would condemn me as a thief regardless of the use to which I put that money. Now, I assert, and this is the problem in America, and most Americans don't see this, I assert that there's little conceptual distinction between that act where I walked up to you and when the IRS or the congressman walks up to me and says, Williams, give me that $200 you made last week, and we will help the lady downtown. I see no conceptual distinction between those two acts. If there is, if you press me for a distinction, the only distinction I can come up with is one is illegal and the second is legal. However, legality should not be the talisman for a society which professes a desire for justice. After all, history is full of acts that were legal but clearly immoral. That is, slavery in the United States was legal, but it was immoral. Apartheid in South Africa is legal. Concentration camps, Stalinist and Maoist purges, they were all legal, but clearly they were immoral. And I think that the big bridge that we have to cross in the United States is the recognition that actions which are immoral when done privately don't become moral simply because they're done with majority consent or under the color of law. I've had a lot of people tell me, well, Williams, we live in democracy and it's majority rule. Well, I first rushed to point them out that it was designed as a republic. But beside that, I say that democracy or majority rule is no standard for morality. I ask people, well, if we voted to, I've talked to ladies about this, I said if we got a vote, a majority vote to rape you, would you find it acceptable? And almost all the time I found that it was unacceptable.